You need to make a 2-minute phone call to the doctor's office. It should be easy. But instead of picking up the phone, you're pacing across your room, you're whispering your opening line out loud to see how it sounds. You have already mapped out 3 different ways they might answer, and you have a backup plan for every single one. Your thumb is hovering over the call button, like you are about to defuse a bomb. If you are feeling completely exposed right now, take a deep breath. You are not broken or incompetent. Your brain is just operating in a more sophisticated way. People around you probably do not get it. They casually say things like, just pick up the phone. It is not a big deal. Why are you making this so complicated? And when you hear that, a heavy wave of embarrassment washes over you. You start questioning yourself, why is this so hard for me? Why can I not just be normal like everyone else who can seamlessly dial a number and talk to a complete stranger without breaking a single sweat? For you, a simple phone call does not feel like a casual conversation. It feels like a pop quiz on your own life, and you are absolutely terrified of failing it. You worry that your voice will shake. You are anxious that you will stumble over your words, forget your own address, or sound unintelligent to the person on the other end of the line. So you sit there staring at your screen, trapped in an exhausting loop of overthinking. You feel this deep, heavy sense of guilt for struggling with something that society has endlessly labeled as basic and effortless. This creates a quiet, agonizing version of imposter syndrome in your daily life. You navigate the world feeling like you are constantly one unscripted interaction away from looking foolish. The pressure to be perfectly articulate and socially flawless is completely overwhelming, leaving you feeling wildly out of sync with a world that seems to thrive on instant, spontaneous communication. You are tired of feeling like a defective communicator, but what if I told you that this intense anxiety is not a character flaw at all? What if this paralyzing fear of a simple phone call is actually pointing to a fascinating, highly complex mechanical process happening inside your skull right now? Let's look at the actual neuroscience of how you communicate. But to truly understand this, we need to look at the massive neurological difference between a text message and a phone call. When you send a text, you are engaging in what behavioral scientists call asynchronous communication. Think of asynchronous communication as a safe, controlled sandbox for your brain. You have the ultimate luxury of time. When a message pops up on your screen, you can read it, put your phone down, go make a cup of coffee, and formulate the absolute perfect response. You have a psychological buffer zone. You can type out a reply, delete the whole thing, change a period to an exclamation mark so you do not sound mad, and hit send only when you feel completely safe. Your brain naturally loves this. It is a low-stakes environment where your prefrontal cortex, the logical planning part of your brain, has plenty of runway to analyze the social dynamics and craft a flawless persona. But a phone call is an entirely different beast. A phone call is synchronous communication. There is no buffer. There's no backspace button. There's no editing phase. It is a live, unscripted broadcast, and your brain is suddenly forced to process incoming information, interpret subtle vocal tones, and formulate intelligent responses in real time with absolutely zero latency allowed. Every single word you choose, every slight hesitation, and every change in your vocal pitch is broadcasted instantly, leaving absolutely no room for error or calculation. For an overthinker, switching from texting to calling is like going from playing a slow, turn-based board game to suddenly being thrown into a high-speed car chase. Your brain is violently stripped of its safety net. When you hear that phone ringing, or when you are about to press dial, your brain recognizes that you are entering a synchronous environment where every second of dead air feels like a massive social failure. In a normal face-to-face conversation, a 2-second pause is totally natural. But on a phone call, a 2-second silence feels like a glaring alarm that you have messed up, that things are awkward, or that the other person is silently judging you. Your brain is fully aware of this pressure and knows that it has to perform flawlessly on a live stage, and this intense demand for instant processing completely alters how your neural pathways operate. You are not just talking, you are rapidly decoding auditory cues without the helpful context of body language or facial expressions. You are navigating in the dark, relying purely on the microfluctuations in the stranger's voice to determine if you are doing a good job or if you are being a nuisance. But here is where the science gets truly fascinating. When you are forced into that live, synchronous environment, you are actually triggering a massive bottleneck in what cognitive psychologists call your working memory. Think of your working memory as your brain's short-term RAM. It is the mental workspace where you hold active information just long enough to use it. When you are casually chatting with a close friend, your working memory operates smoothly. You are relaxed, the stakes are low, and the conversation flows organically. But when you are calling a doctor's office, a customer service line, or a new client, Your brain perceives a high risk of social friction. It desperately wants to avoid saying the wrong thing, stumbling over a basic question, or creating a painfully awkward silence. So, to protect you from that potential social danger, your brain does something incredibly complex. It attempts to predict the completely unpredictable. This triggers an intense state of anticipatory anxiety. Your brain immediately starts generating a massive, intricate decision tree. If they say this specific phrase, I will use this exact response. If they ask for my insurance details, I need to have my card perfectly positioned in my left hand. What if they put me on hold and then abruptly come back? What if they ask a question I have not prepared for and I freeze? You are literally trying to pre-compute every single branching path of a conversation that is not even started yet. According to cognitive load theory, your working memory has a very strict biological limit. It can only hold and process a few pieces of information at any given moment. By scripting out multiple alternate realities and trying to hold all of them in your conscious mind simultaneously, you are completely maxing out your cognitive capacity. Your brain in that exact moment is exactly like a web browser with 50 different tabs open at the same time. An annoying audio ad is autoplaying somewhere in the background, the cooling fan is spinning aggressively, the entire system is overheating. And you are frantically clicking around trying to find the source of the noise before the whole computer completely crashes. The sheer amount of neurological computational power it takes to hold all those potential scenarios in your working memory is absolutely staggering. You're essentially running a highly sophisticated, multi-layered simulation software inside your head just to ask a simple question or schedule a routine checkup. That overwhelming feeling of being frozen or paralyzed right before dialing the number, that is not you being cowardly or inadequate. That is simply your cognitive system freezing up under the immense crushing weight of its own advanced processing power. But if you think that internal mental simulation is the most fascinating part of this process, wait until you look at what your physical body is instinctively doing in those moments leading up to the call. Think about your physical state right before you hit dial. You rarely just sit perfectly still on the couch, do you? No. You stand up, you start pacing, you walk from the living room to the kitchen, you trace a completely meaningless path around the coffee table, and you pace up and down the hallway while staring blankly at the floorboards. To anyone else watching, you look like you are needlessly agonizing over something trivial. You might even feel a little ridiculous doing it. But what you are actually doing is executing a brilliant, deeply ingrained physiological strategy. That compulsive pacing is a form of what neuroscientists and psychologists call bilateral stimulation. As you walk, you are rhythmically alternating the activation of the left and right sides of your body, which in turn engages both hemispheres of your brain. Left foot, left brain, right brain. This repetitive crossing the midline movement is not just a random nervous habit, it is an incredibly powerful subconscious tool for emotional regulation. In fact, it is the exact same foundational mechanism used in advanced psychological therapies to help the brain process overwhelming stress and trauma. Your nervous system is highly attuned to your internal state. When you anticipate that unscripted phone call, your amygdala, the tiny fear center in your brain, detects a potential social threat and signals a sudden spike in stress hormones. Your body is instantly flooded with excess nervous energy, preparing you for a literal fight or flight response over a simple pizza delivery or a dental appointment. Because you cannot literally fight or run away from a phone call, your physical body finds an alternative way to discharge that intense energetic buildup. By pacing back and forth, you are physically soothing your own nervous system. You are using motor movement to tell your highly alarmed brain that it is okay, that you are moving through the stress, and that you are maintaining control over your physical environment, even if you cannot control the impending conversation. You are essentially acting as your own built-in grounding mechanism. It is exactly like an elite athlete physically shaking out their muscles and bouncing on their toes right before stepping onto the track for a major sprint. You are simply warming up your neurological engine. So the next time you feel embarrassed about walking 3 miles inside your own bedroom just to book a haircut, realize that your pacing is not a symptom of weakness or anxiety. It is a highly evolved, self-taught survival mechanism designed to keep your cognitive load from completely crashing under the pressure. Let us completely shift the way you look at this entire experience. We have been deeply conditioned by an extrovert-dominated society to believe that hesitation is a sign of weakness. We are told that needing a script means you are somehow socially deficient, and that true confidence means acting purely on spontaneous impulse. But if we actually break down the mechanics of your behavior, proving that this is not a flaw, but rather a premium, highly advanced feature of your brain, becomes incredibly easy. I want you to think about the people who never, ever rehearse their phone calls. They are often the exact same people who make the most agonizing, frustrating phone calls for others to endure. They impulsively dial a number, wait for a busy receptionist to answer, and then spend the next 3 excruciating minutes digging through their wallet to find their insurance card. They mumble and they get distracted by someone else in the room, and they forcefully externalize their own disorganized cognitive load onto whoever was unlucky enough to answer the phone. They make their lack of preparation someone else's problem. But you would never dream of subjecting another human being to that kind of chaotic auditory torture. You view that as a fundamental violation of basic social respect. You are not rehearsing because you are cowardly. You are rehearsing because you are a profoundly considerate communicator. You instinctively choose to internalize the effort. You mentally draft the script. You practice the specific cadence of your voice, and you map out those complex branching dialogue trees because you inherently respect the other person's time. You want to make absolutely sure that by the time you finally press that green call button, you are delivering a tightly edited, perfectly concise, and frictionless package of information. You are generously doing all the exhausting, heavy cognitive lifting before the interaction even begins so that the stranger on the other end does not have to. Society might aggressively label your pacing and scripting as a disorder or a crippling social anxiety, but if we look at the actual neurological intent behind it, it is actually a beautiful manifestation of hyperempathy. You are so acutely aware of the delicate social fabric connecting us all that you refuse to be the person who clumsily tears it. You agonize over your exact choice of words because you care deeply about how your presence impacts the emotional state and the workflow of another human being. You are not a broken communicator struggling to keep up with a fast-paced world. You are a master architect of social harmony, meticulously engineering your interactions to protect the time and energy of everyone involved. So, the next time you find yourself pacing quietly in your living room, muttering your order for a simple takeout delivery, or mentally practicing how you will introduce yourself on an upcoming work call, I want you to stop being so incredibly hard on yourself. Take a long, deep breath and finally let go of that heavy, exhausting guilt you have been carrying around. You are not weird, you are not socially broken, and you certainly do not need to be fixed. What you are experiencing in those quiet, anxious moments is not a symptom of a defective mind, but rather the beautiful, undeniable evidence of a deeply caring one. Your brain is simply running a meticulous dress rehearsal because it wants you to succeed. It is working overtime, firing on all cylinders just to ensure that you can deliver a perfect, seamless performance on the stage of everyday life. The world will constantly try to tell you to just act natural, to wing it, and to speak without thinking. But the truth is, the world actually benefits immensely from people exactly like you. It needs people who pause, who reflect, and who carefully weigh the impact of their words before putting them out into the universe. It is perfectly okay if you need a few extra minutes to collect your thoughts before dialing a number. It is completely fine if you need to walk a lap around your kitchen island to soothe your nervous system. You are absolutely allowed to take all the time you need to feel safe before you speak. You do not have to apologize for the way your mind operates. Instead of fighting it, start honoring that process. Honor the magnificent, complex machinery inside your head that works so relentlessly to protect you from the unpredictable chaos of the outside world. Because at the end of the day, your hesitation is not a weakness. It is just your unique, quiet way of showing a profound level of respect for the people you communicate with. And honestly, that is a gift. So tell me, do you also pace around your room before making a simple phone call, or do you have a different way of rehearsing your lines? I would love to read about your specific routines in the comments below. Remember, your mind is a masterpiece, not a mistake. If this video just put into words something you have been feeling your entire life, please hit that subscribe button. This is a safe, judgment-free space where we can continue decoding ourselves together. See you next time.